Scholz. We saw Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, and others. So these are the senior leaders from other European nations who are also present. Trudeau and Modi meeting could be interesting. But also look at the landmark that has been chosen. This is one of the most iconic Parisian monuments, the Grand Palace as it is called, built in 1900. It's recognizable by the large glass dome that you see, the French flags around. It's an architectural masterpiece, and that's one of the reasons that Macron government chose this location, a historic landmark for future of AI and how in many ways its heritage, history blending with the future of the world. All of this has been mentioned in as one of the biggest landmarks. And there, walking in, the two big hosts, Emmanuel Macron, French President, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and dressed in a sharp, crisp kurta and churidar, so ensuring that the Indian attire is seen at this World Forum. The handshakes and the greetings that are happening. Remember that possibly the biggest VVIPs from the global tech corporate world are presently there. CEO of Accenture, JP Morgan, President of the Alibaba Group, President of Meta, Nick Clegg is there, Sam Altman, like I mentioned, CEO Google, Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai, who Prime Minister Modi just shook hands with. The Greek Prime Minister is there, Canadian Prime Minister, China's Vice Premier, Antonio Guterres also we saw. That's Emmanuel Macron, a handshake with J.D. Vance. It's one relationship that France would like to have with Trump administration, in a good one, because remember that looks like Trump has ruffled a lot of feathers already. There is the UN Secretary General, like I mentioned, Antonio Guterres, President of the European Commission, German Chancellor, and others as well. So it's absolutely a big, big VVIP gathering. And with France, India is the co-chair. Remember, this is being watched by the entire world media, world leaders, because artificial intelligence is still in many ways, has a lot of guidelines people have been talking about. Is it needed? How can it be transparent and safe for the users of AI? So acknowledging all the dignitaries who have come, a thank you from Emmanuel Macron, ensuring everyone is comfortable. And remember, not a corporate boring room, but one of the biggest historical architectural marvels of Paris, of France, is this Grand Palace that has been the chosen location to also showcase the fine arts as much as France's future.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président. Comment allez-vous? It's okay, it's okay.
Non, merci. En forme? Comment allez-vous? Happy to see you.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
How are you?
Très bien.
And good thing. Non, c'est Gilbert, comment vas-tu?
Shashank Mattu also continues to be with us, and just to inform the viewer, this is a plenary session that's going to be held here. International participants who we are witnessing right now taking to their seats. Then there is also an action week, so there will be parallel events also that are being organized. And France means business, and in many ways they've chosen India to be a partner. Shashank, so tell us more about that. I'm also loving the fact that Indian Prime Minister has not ditched the Indian attire. He's chosen the crisp white kurta and a churidar. Possibly many would be asking and inquiring about that too. He met Sundar Pichai right away. That was the first greeting. Someone, of course, very familiar to the Prime Minister. A moment of pride also, don't you think, here, of how India has taken center stage with France?
Is that India is very, very keen to help govern the future of artificial intelligence. It wants to develop these technologies in India as well. It has no intention of being left behind. And so I think you can see that Prime Minister Modi is really one of the most senior world leaders who is present at in Paris for this summit. Remember that he's also trying to make a pitch for Indian leadership, because public interest, AI for public interest and for public governance is something that India is very strong at. And of course, and that is one of the main themes of this conference. So you're going to see number one, him make a pitch for Indian leadership on artificial intelligence, to talk to these global CEOs and say that, look, you can do a lot of business with India, and also looking at what India can learn from these agencies about how to govern AI globally, bring these companies to India, and of course the impact on India's technology and society. So it's important that the Prime Minister has shown up for this event. It shows that India takes artificial intelligence seriously and its governance seriously. And again, a part of what India wants to do in terms of playing a greater role globally, technologically, as well as on issues of global governance.
How does India stand to benefit here? Because I understand in many ways this is still France as the main host. What do you think India is going to take away as benefit, whether it's about business, whether it's India becoming a hub, or at least that's the intention of the Indian government in this regard?
Right. So there are a number of things. Firstly, this entire summit has 5 major themes. And the first theme is artificial intelligence for the public good and public digital infrastructure, which is something that India is going to be very strong on. Remember that DPI, digital public infrastructure, is something India does extremely well. It's used digital services to push social services for people. And that's a big part of India's push on global governance more generally. So being here at this summit, India can make that push on AI as well and say that, look, we can integrate AI and digital public infrastructure. So that's part of India's push for global governance. It's also important for the Prime Minister to be there. What India wants to get is to talk to a lot of these companies and say that, look, you can set up partnership. We've got good companies in India like Sarvam AI and other companies doing good work on artificial intelligence. Partner with them, work with them, invest in India, develop talent here, and let's see what we can do together. And of course, the very fact of the Prime Minister being there and playing an important part in governing the future of this global technology, understanding what global companies want, is going to be important if India wants to set itself up as a hub. So he's understanding where global tech CEOs are, what they want from India, how India can contribute to artificial intelligence and digital public infrastructure, and of course sending a message that India has no intention of being left behind when it comes to the development and governance of AI, because this is a technology that is going to transform global economy, is going to transform productivity over the next couple of decades. And India wants to be at the forefront of it.
Cette France confiante
Emmanuel
dans
Macron is speaking.
le progrès, la
we'll
science
try and
et cette
get the
aventure
translation
extraordinaire.
also. Usually he
Et nous nous
interacts
retrouvons ici,
eventually in English too, of course speaking in French right now. And as he continues to, of course, elaborately speak, I want to tell you how he had a joke earlier to mention. This is just about a plug, and the world is changing with AI.
Universelle de 1937. Sous l'impulsion d'un prix Nobel de chimie, M. Perrin, de l'époque, et qui avait cette conviction qu'en montrant la science aux Françaises, aux Français et au monde, on arriverait
interacting, and from the looks of it, he is talking about, as it looks like, about the palace as well as much about the AI. And remember that France intends to become the hub of OpenAI, which USA is already.
1937, it was Mr. Perrin who was a Nobel laureate for chemistry, and he was convinced that by demonstrating to the French and to the world what science can do, we could convince them to embrace progress and therefore have science serve the interests of humanity. And I think that is our challenge with artificial intelligence, which is to ensure that these incredible technological innovations with new computing power, that all of the incredible advances of AI and its implications in various sectors be in the interests of humanity in a world that is disrupted by crisis. Thanks to open dialogue, we're lucky enough to have India, the US, China, Europe, the African continent, and the Latin American continent here. We have heads of state and government, researchers, civil society, entrepreneurs, investors, and that gives us an opportunity to engage in dialogue and to advance on this path of understanding science and ensuring that it serves collective progress. I won't be much longer. I'm incredibly pleased to have you here at this summit, which I co-chair with Prime Minister Modi. And so, dear Prime Minister, dear Narendra, I'm actually going to give you the floor now so that we can hear from you and hear what India has to say to the world on AI. Thank you very much for being here.
Excellencies, friends, let me begin with a simple experiment. If you upload your medical report to an AI app, it can explain in simple language, free of any jargon, what it means for your health. But if you ask the same app to draw an image of someone writing with their left hand, the app will most likely draw someone writing with the right hand. Because that is what the training data is dominated by. It shows that while the positive potential of AI is absolutely amazing, there are many biases that we need to think carefully about. That is why I am grateful to my friend, President Macron, for hosting this summit and for inviting me to co-chair it. Friends, AI is already reshaping our polity, our economy, our security, and even our society. AI is writing the code for humanity. AI is writing the code for humanity in this century. But it is very different from other technology milestones in human history. AI is developing at an unprecedented scale and speed, and being adapted and deployed even faster. There is also a deep interdependence across borders. Therefore, there is a need for collective global efforts to establish governance and standards that uphold our shared values, address risks, and build trust. But governance is not just about managing risks and rivalries. It is also about promoting innovation and deploying it for the global good. So, we must think deeply and discuss openly about innovation and governance. Governance is also about ensuring access to all, especially in the global south. It is where the capabilities are most lacking, be it compute, power, talent, data, or the financial resources. Friends, AI can help transform millions of lives by improving health, education, agriculture, and so much more. It can help create a world in which the journey to sustainable development goals becomes easier and faster. To do this, we must pull together resources and talent. We must develop open source systems that enhance trust and transparency. We must build quality data sets free from biases. We must democratize technology and create people-centric applications. We must address concerns related to cybersecurity, disinformation, and deepfakes. And we must also ensure that technology is rooted in local ecosystems for it to be effective and useful. Friend, loss of jobs is AI's most feared disruption. But history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. We need to invest in skilling and reskilling our people for an AI-driven future. Friends, there is no doubt that the high energy intensity of AI needs to be looked into. This will require green power to fuel its future. India and France have worked together for years through initiatives like the International Solar Alliance to harness the power of the sun. As we advance our partnership to AI, it is a natural progression from sustainability to innovation to shape a smarter and responsible future. At the same time, sustainable AI does not only mean using clean energy. AI models must also be efficient and sustainable in size, data needs, and resources requirements. After all, the human brain manages to compose poetry and design spaceships using less power than most light bulbs. Friends, India has successfully built a digital public infrastructure for over 1.4 billion people at a very low cost. It is built around an open and accessible network. It has regulations and a wide range of applications to modernize our economy, reform governance, and transform the lives of our people. We have unlocked the power of data through our data empowerment and protection architecture. And we have made digital commerce, democratic and accessible to all. This vision is the foundation of India's national AI mission. That is why, during our G20 presidency, we built a consensus on harnessing AI responsibly for good and for all. Today, India leads in AI adoption and techno-legal solutions on data privacy. We are developing AI applications for public good. We have one of the world's largest AI talent pools. India is building its own large language model considering our diversity. We also have a unique public-private partnership model for pooling resources like compute power. It is made available to our startups and researchers at an affordable cost. And India is ready to share its experience and expertise to ensure that AI future is for good and for all. Friends, we are at the dawn of the AI age that will shape the course of humanity. Some people worry about machines becoming superior in intelligence to humans, but no one holds the key to our collective future and shared destiny other than us humans. That sense of responsibility must guide us. Thank you.
An image is there of Prime Minister Modi coming off stage after co-chairing the AI summit and kicking it off with his opening remarks. So you saw there the French President Macron immediately greeting him, congratulating him over his speech. The Prime Minister's address there as the co-chair of the AI summit extremely crucial while talking about the challenges that we face with regards to cybersecurity, also highlighting the need for, in fact, focusing on responsible AI development, on artificial intelligence. Prime Minister Modi also speaking about how the global south plays a big role in the same, also highlighting what India has really done, the transformation of artificial intelligence. He's also, in his speech, in great detail, gone into how we need to ensure responsibly we bring in AI so that it's people-centric and at the same time ensure that we battle any misinformation or, for that matter, even issues like deep fakes. So as, in fact, the Prime Minister's kicked things off with their opening remark, you heard some very important issues that perhaps sum up for you what this AI summit is all about. That's got some of the biggest tech leaders, world leaders too, coming together on one platform. This was the moment when you had French President Macron personally introducing Prime Minister Modi on stage there at the AI summit. And you see there at every moment where President Macron and Prime Minister Modi made the friendship, the dosti, that's on display. And Prime Minister Modi, just before he delivered those remarks, was seen seated next to US Vice President J.D. Vance.
Importantly, the Prime Minister also speaking about what India is really doing with regards to digital infrastructure, and considering that the world really is talking about our UPI system, the world is talking about how we've set up the largest digital infrastructure. It's important to highlight that the Prime Minister has also spoken about AI being adopted in becoming a part of our daily lives, but doing so responsibly as well. And an important point that he referred to while speaking about how India really is pushing forward in the AI journey, exploring our own applications. He's also spoken about how it reflects what India stands for, about diversity, and reflects really India's diversity in that sense. But also with that very point of digital infrastructure and diversity comes the important message of inclusion, of ensuring every single person benefits from AI, which is why Prime Minister Modi also put forth that very, very important message saying that we must ensure artificial intelligence development is people-centric in every way, and to ensure that the development reaches every single person. Prime Minister Modi therefore also said that if you look at really the development of AI in the last few years, the global south has played a big role in that. So important message that pretty much sets the stage for the AI summit, and very telling really that you see the Prime Minister as the co-chair of this summit, telling of how much France values India and our relationship, also telling of Prime Minister Modi's leadership for the country and really how he's seen across the world. But also perhaps what's a big contributor to that is our digital infrastructure and the transformation that we've seen digitally, which the world and many countries are also learning from on how to ensure last mile connectivity for such a large population. Shashank Mattu is joining us with more details on this. Shashank, just highlight for us the significance of Prime Minister Modi co-chairing this AI summit and essentially giving the opening remarks at such a big event. You've got the biggest tech leaders, the biggest world leaders all coming together.
Right. No, it's an absolutely significant moment, specifically because, as the Prime Minister acknowledged, artificial intelligence is going to be writing the code for humanity in the 21st century. Everyone understands that this is a technology that is going to reshape global economies, reshape societies completely, but it needs to be governed, it needs to be managed, that it works for people. And that's why getting the world's most important technological leaders and political leaders in the same room talking to each other is so important. That's why the summit is important. And it's even more important that Prime Minister Modi is chairing it. He really has a couple of key objectives when he has come here, made these speeches and chaired this. Number one, he's trying to show that India will take a leading role in governing artificial intelligence globally. He wants to show that India is going to be a leader when it comes to technology and delivering it for common good. He's pitching India's leadership role as well, because he talked about India and what it's done in the past in terms of digital public infrastructure and using technology for public benefit. He talked about, for example, artificial intelligence for the global south in his speech, trying to make sure that, look, AI has to work for everyone. It has to be open source. It can't be monopolized by a couple of companies sitting in Silicon Valley. It has to be for the global south. It has to work for everyone. He highlighted the promise of artificial intelligence, but also said that, look, there are serious risks. We need to talk about deepfakes. We need to talk about the kind of power artificial intelligence is going to need. It could be highly polluting. We need green power. And so he's basically saying, as a statesman does, that, look, this technology has the power to change everything, but we need to govern it and govern it responsibly while encouraging innovation. So he's staking out India's leadership role in applying artificial intelligence, playing a role in governing artificial intelligence around the world, and also part of his participation there at the summit is going to be to talk to a lot of these AI CEOs and saying, look, invest in India, work with our companies. We've got good companies in artificial intelligence here in India. Work with us, help us develop this technology, and we can propel artificial intelligence forward. So it's multi-pronged, both from a business perspective, from an economy perspective, and from a global governance perspective, that Prime Minister Modi has gone there and he's made this speech about both the promises as well as the peril of artificial intelligence.
The promises and perils, and that perhaps sets the tone perfectly for the AI Action Summit as well, as all of these leaders gather. What's also important to highlight here, Shashank, is that, India is essentially a leader when it comes to digital infrastructure, and there's so much that the world can learn from us, which is why perhaps you have the Prime Minister on such a big platform speaking to leaders about how to use AI responsibly, what kind of a role it really plays in the years to come.
No, you're absolutely right. In fact, one of the key focuses, there's 5 focus areas for this summit, and public AI, using AI for the common good, is absolutely an important part of that. And digital public infrastructure, as you very rightly mentioned, is something that India has done extremely well. You look at what Prime Minister Modi said in his remarks just now. He said artificial intelligence can help in health, education, agriculture, creating a world with sustainable development. If it's open source, it can be also used for the benefit of the global south. So he's making a very, very clear pitch that AI has to be for everyone.
Okay.
It cannot just be monopolized by a couple of countries.
All right, Shashank, just stay with me. Let's play out some of the highlights of the Prime Minister's address from a few moments ago.
AI is already reshaping our polity, our economy, our security, and even our society. AI is writing the code for humanity. AI is writing the code for humanity in this century. But it is very different from other technology milestones in human history. AI is developing at an unprecedented scale and speed, and being adapted and deployed even faster. There is also a deep interdependence across borders. Therefore, there is a need for collective global efforts to establish governance and standards that uphold our shared values, address risks, and build trust. But governance is not just about managing risks and rivalries. It is also about promoting innovation and deploying it for the global good. So, we must think deeply and discuss openly about innovation.
Okay, let's cut back live to the AI summit where US Vice President J.D. Vance is currently speaking.
Will maintain a pro-worker growth path for AI, so it can be a potent tool for job creation in the United States. And I appreciate Prime Minister Modi's point. AI, I really believe, will facilitate and make people more productive. It is not going to replace human beings. It will never replace human beings. And I think too many of the leaders in the AI industry, when they talk about this fear of replacing workers, I think they really miss the point. AI, we believe, is going to make us more productive, more prosperous, and more free. The United States of America is the leader in AI, and our administration plans to keep it that way. The U.S. possesses all components across the full AI stack, including advanced semiconductor design, frontier algorithms, and, of course, transformational applications. Now, the computing power this stack requires is integral to advancing AI technology. And to safeguard America's advantage, the Trump administration will ensure that the most powerful AI systems are built in the U.S. with American-designed and manufactured chips. Now, just because we're the leader doesn't mean we want to or need to go it alone, of course. And let me be emphatic about this point. America wants to partner with all of you. And we want to embark on the AI revolution before us with a spirit of openness and collaboration. But to create that kind of trust, we need international regulatory regimes that fosters the creation of AI technology rather than strangles it. And we need our European friends in particular to look to this new frontier with optimism rather than trepidation. Now, the development of cutting-edge AI in the U.S. is no accident. By preserving an open regulatory environment, we've encouraged American innovators to experiment and to make unparalleled R&D investments. Of the $700 billion, give or take, that's estimated to be spent on AI in 2028, over half of it will likely be invested in the United States of America. Now, this administration will not be the one to snuff out the startups and the grad students producing some of the most groundbreaking applications of artificial intelligence. Instead, our laws will keep big tech, little tech, and all other developers on a level playing field. Now, with the President's recent executive order on AI, we're developing an AI action plan that avoids an overly precautionary regulatory regime while ensuring that all Americans benefit from the technology and its transformative potential. Now, we invite your countries to work with us and to follow that model if it makes sense for your nations. However, the Trump administration is troubled by reports that some foreign governments are considering tightening the screws on U.S. tech companies with international footprints. Now, America cannot and will not accept that, and we think it's a terrible mistake, not just for the United States of America, but for your own countries. The U.S. innovators of all sizes already know what it's like to deal with onerous international rules. Many of our most productive tech companies are forced to deal with the EU's Digital Services Act and the massive regulations it created about taking down content and policing so-called misinformation. And of course, we want to ensure the internet is a safe place, but it is one thing to prevent a predator from preying on a child on the internet, and it is something quite different to prevent a grown man or woman from accessing an opinion that the government thinks is misinformation. Meanwhile, for smaller firms, navigating the GDPR means paying endless legal compliance costs or otherwise risking massive fines. Now, for some, the easiest way to avoid the dilemma has been to simply block EU users in the first place. Is this really the future that we want? Ladies and gentlemen, I think the answer for all of us should be no. Now, there's no issue where we worry about more than regulation when it comes to energy. And again, I appreciated the comments of so many at the conference because they recognize that we stand now at the frontier of an AI industry that is hungry for reliable power and high-quality semiconductors. Yet too many of our friends are deindustrializing on the one hand and chasing reliable power out of their nations and off their grids with the other. The AI future is not going to be won by hand-wringing about safety. It will be won by building, from reliable power plants to the manufacturing facilities that can produce the chips of the future. Now, at a personal level, what excites me most about AI is that it is grounded in the real and the physical economy. The success of the sector isn't just a matter of smart people sitting in front of a computer screen and coding. It depends on those who work with their hands, even as robotics will change our factories. It will certainly make our healthcare providers better at treating diseases, but it will also depend on the data produced by those healthcare providers, by those doctors and nurses. I believe it will help us create and store new modes of power in the future, but right now, AI cannot take off unless the world builds the energy infrastructure to support it. Now, it's my view that tech innovation over the last 20 years has often conjured images of smart people staring at computer screens, engineering in the world of bits. But the AI economy will primarily depend on and transform the world of atoms. Now, at this moment, we face the extraordinary prospect of a new industrial revolution, one on par with the invention of the steam engine or Bessemer steel. But it will never come to pass if overregulation deters innovators from taking the risks necessary to advance the ball. Nor will it occur if we allow AI to become dominated by massive players looking to use the tech to censor or control users' thoughts. And I'd ask if you step back a moment and ask yourself, who is most aggressively demanding that we, meaning political leaders gathered here today, do the most aggressive regulation? It is very often the people who already have an incumbent advantage in the market. And when a massive incumbent comes to us asking us for safety regulations, we ought to ask whether that safety regulation is for the benefit of our people or whether it's for the benefit of the incumbent. Now, over the last few years, we've watched as governments, businesses, and nonprofit organizations have advanced unpopular and I believe downright ahistorical social agendas through AI. In the US, we had AI image generators trying to tell us that George Washington was black or that America's doughboys in World War I were in fact women. Now, we laugh at this now, and of course it was ridiculous, but we have to remember the lessons from that ridiculous moment. And what we take from it is that the Trump administration will ensure that AI systems developed in America are free from ideological bias and never restrict our citizens' right to free speech. We can trust our people to think, to consume information, to develop their own ideas, and to debate with one another in the open marketplace of ideas. Now, we've also watched as hostile foreign adversaries have weaponized AI software to rewrite history, surveil users, and censor speech. This is hardly new, of course. As they do with other tech, some authoritarian regimes have stolen and used AI to strengthen their military, intelligence, and surveillance capabilities, capture foreign data, and create propaganda to undermine other nations' national security. I want to be clear. This administration will block such efforts, full stop. We will safeguard American AI and chip technologies from theft and misuse, work with our allies and partners to strengthen and extend these protections, and close pathways to adversaries attaining AI capabilities that threaten all of our people. And I would also remind our international friends here today that partnering with such regimes, it never pays off in the long term. From CCTV to 5G equipment, we're all familiar with cheap tech in the marketplace that's been heavily subsidized and exported by authoritarian regimes. But as I know, and I think some of us in this room have learned from experience, partnering with them means chaining your nation to an authoritarian master that seeks to infiltrate, dig in, and seize your information infrastructure. Should a deal seem too good to be true, just remember the old adage that we learned in Silicon Valley: if you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. Finally, this administration wants to be very clear about one last point. We will always center American workers in our AI policy. We refuse to view AI as a purely disruptive technology that will inevitably automate away our labor force. We believe, and we will fight for policies that ensure that AI is going to make our workers more productive, and we expect that they will reap the rewards with higher.
Okay, so you have there US Vice President J.D. Vance in his opening remarks speaking about AI as an opportunity, but importantly, making note of what the Prime Minister said and working his entire speech around the message of Prime Minister Modi, that AI doesn't mean that it's no longer about human labor force, that Prime Minister Modi says that AI will be along with humans. They continue to have their jobs. It is an interesting topic of discussion that I'm sure will move forward also in the summit. I'm slipping into a very short break. We'll be right back, getting you some of the highlights of the Prime Minister's France visit.